So I've spoken to about 2,000 people over the last couple of years in terms of LinkedIn DMs. I started about 2,000 conversations with prospective clients, and I had about 400 of them on Zoom calls. So I think I have a pretty good data sample at this point to see one thing that's confirmed over and over and over. And that is that businesses who focus on solving specific problems, specific, difficult, gnarly problems for their clients, they almost always do better than businesses who are focused on the identity of the target clients or focused on a virtuous cause. Whenever there's some kind of like a virtuous cause, anything like targeting ethical business owners, so-called ethical business owners, or working with mission-driven people, or one that I see quite frequently, surprisingly enough, given how few vegans there are, but it's like helping vegan solopreneurs or vegan entrepreneurs wanting to make social impact, right? Anything that has to do with these things. Also working with creative people, and interestingly, also helping women or female coaches, people like that, or anything that has to do with, find your inner goddess, stop self-sabotaging, and so on, those kinds of goals. But that's a separate category. But mainly I want to talk about the targeting ethical business owners. These always do worse, invariably. They make less money. And how do I know? There's two sets of data points that I have that prove me right over and over. And that is, first of all, in the minority of cases, we actually get to discuss with them, of those 400 calls that I mentioned. In many of those cases, we actually discuss how much money they're making currently. It just comes up, we say, so what kind of run rate are you on it? And actually, most of those people are not even in business completely 100% for themselves. Many of them who want to, let's say, especially target the vegan solopreneurs, it's like a really, really small minority of people. That group, very often, the people doing that often still have a normal job, and they're sort of dabbling in this space. They're dabbling in being a coach for these small subgroups of people. And I don't mean to knock on subgroups necessarily. I think niching down is good. That's fine. It's only when you take a specific identity group and solve a generalized problem for them. Like, for example, helping vegan solopreneurs with marketing themselves on LinkedIn. I believe there's a real problem with that, because if you know how to market yourself on LinkedIn, you can help everybody do that. Why would you only focus yourself on this specific subgroup? By the way, quick alert that if you're watching this, I cannot see the comments. The StreamYard has just sent a note to streamers that for some reason there's some kind of technical bug that doesn't allow us to see comments. So I'm very sorry. Hopefully at the end, I'm going to check in the notes or in the comment section if comments have come up, and I'll try to answer them. But as I'm streaming, I don't see anything popping up. So apologies for that. So it's these sub-niches that people solve general problems for that tends to almost never work. Like, if you help people with speaking confidently, why would you only target women? Okay, so but that's a subgroup. But let's now keep focusing on those ethical people targeting so-called ethical business owners and mission-driven people, and people want to make social impact and so on. Now, so again, as I said, there's two sets of data points that show me that they don't make money. Number one is minority of cases, how much money they're currently making. Number two is how many of them actually want to work with me and then don't do it because they cannot afford working with me. Those two are data points that I see confirming over and over that these people make much less money than other types of coaches and consultants, namely those who focus on a specific problem for a clearly defined target audience, but where the problem is actually in the foreground. Okay, you may, if you are a really good email marketer and you have a specific niche in which It helps you. Like one of my friends, acquaintances, Zarek Samdani, he is an email marketer, specifically for the supplement space. So he's a really good, because he knows what you can say, what you cannot say. It has a area that overlaps with several FDA approval processes and so on. So he needs to know this stuff. That's why it's really good to have a specialist working on this. But he knows email marketing, and he works with supplement providers. That's a very good niche. And he focuses on the problem, namely engaging their existing email marketing list and making sure that they, that they grow their revenue using email marketing. That's a very good niche. But because he puts that in the foreground, he may have personal preferences. He may prefer to work with men or with women or with people from his cultural circle. He's from Malaysia, I believe. So he may want to prefer to work with people who are similar to him. That's fine. It's perfectly okay. But he doesn't put that into the foreground. The foreground is his competence and the area where he's really good at. And the surrounding topics, like, okay, he needs to know a lot about FDA approval processes, what you can say in an email about supplements and what you cannot say. That's a very useful skill to have. Okay. And so the most striking example of, because these data points are real, okay, I'm really not making this up. That's why I'm making this broadcast, because I want to warn you. And if you are currently going down the route of trying to target an identity group like this, for example, vegan solopreneurs or the ethical business owner and so on, if that's your thing, then I strongly recommend you reconsider this. And I'm going to give you one example of a conversation that I had recently with someone who I was talking to. And I was actually thinking, usually when I have these conversations, the prospecting conversations, I usually think, okay, how much are they making? Most likely, you always kind of have a figure in your mind. How much do you think they're currently making from this business? And based on this, you assess, okay, would they be a good fit for me? And when I saw this person, I thought, yeah, okay, he's maybe on like $500,000, right? Because very, very good profile, really professional, how he presents himself. And then we were talking, and during the conversation, he mentioned that he doesn't have a high ticket product. So instantly in my mind, I thought, okay, well, that's probably half. So he's not making $500,000, he's making maybe a quarter, 250K, because high ticket products are highly predictive of high revenues generally. And so when he told me this, I thought, okay, then probably $250,000 maybe. And then he kept talking, and then I asked him, okay, so who's your target persona? He said ethical business owners. And okay, and he also said, yeah, I cannot do high ticket, and high ticket I define it as 5K and above. And he said that he just doesn't believe that they would be able to afford it. And so instantly those two things told me, okay, that's like 100 at best. He's making 100K at best, because both of those things is like a limiting belief where he thinks that some people, the people who he talks to, would not be able to afford a high ticket product. He's a very large audience, and I'm 100% sure there would be people who would charge, who would be happy to pay $5,000 or $10,000 to work with him on a one-on-one basis. But he believes that. And then he says he targets ethical business owners. And that told me, okay, it's going to be 100K. Well, it turned out to be even less than that. So from my expectations, just my kind of experience, how much I think a person makes, it was less than 20%, because he had these limiting beliefs of how much he thinks that they are able to afford, and the fact that he's deliberately targeting ethical business owners. Okay. Also, because I want to ask you, like, what is an ethical business owner, right? In a way, I find the term even offensive, because it suggests that if I don't want to work with you, what does that mean? That you consider me an unethical business owner? What is this? Right? I mean, I personally, I do not target so-called ethical business owners. And let me give you a few examples of people that I work with. I work with a business wellness expert, like a travel wellness expert. I work with a company profitability consultant. I work with a company who provides a specific software to law firms. I work with a performance coach, with a video marketing agency, and so on. Are any of these businesses unethical? How does coming up with a moniker like ethical, unethical help in describing them. I would say 99% of business owners are ethical people, or whatever the rate is. Also, how do you define that? Is someone ethical only ethical when they behave perfectly all the time? Well, then we have basically Jesus who's left standing. Nobody of us is then ethical. And then, so if the definition is wider, does it mean that ethical is someone who at least doesn't break the law? Well, that's 99% of business owners, or even 99.9%. They don't break the law. The vast majority of people don't break the law. So this title is completely irrelevant, and it basically serves to virtue signal. You're signaling to the world that for you, ethics is more important than money. And of course it is, and it should be. But to signal this spells doom for your revenue. That's the problem. Why? Because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy combined with a vicious circle. So you will not have the fortitude to charge high prices, because every time you think, geez, I should charge double. Every time the idea comes up, oh, I'm just charging $2,000. I should be charging $5,000. Then, because you're targeting ethical business owners, and because of that, you consider yourself an ethical business owner, and of course, invariably, you will have it lodged in your mind that charging double is unethical, because you want to be good to the people. You want to provide them a good value service, right? So you're only going to charge them $2,000, whatever your number is. Then this becomes part of a vicious circle, because you don't charge them a lot. It also means that you are not profitable, very profitable. You don't have enough time to develop your skills. You don't have enough sort of leisure time to really contemplate, to see where you can improve, to do this kind of introspection, become better at what you do. You become constantly rushed to get new clients. Therefore, you don't provide a good service, at least not as good as it could be if you charge double, which would give you way more time to serve the existing clients much better. So it's because of that, you then also attract only the people who cannot afford to pay you $5,000. You will keep attracting the people who can at best afford to pay $2,000. And that's like a vicious circle. And you, with your mindset, if you think that way, oh, they couldn't even afford, the people I'm talking to, they cannot afford $5,000. Well, of course they can, because of who you attract with your signaling. If you signal, I want to attract ethical business owners, it will only attract those people for whom money is a dirty word. That's what it effectively comes down to. Where money is a dirty word, where you charge it, yeah, just a little bit, okay, I have to charge money because somehow I have to eat, but it's a dirty thing and let's just keep it on the carpet. It's like, no, I don't see it that way. I proudly charge the high rates that I charge because I know my service is worth it. I know that if you come in, you do the work, you work with us intensely, you will get way more out of it than what you paid. And I don't mind at all charging these high rates. So what can you do about this? If you resonate with what I'm saying and you feel like, okay, I'm still kind of stuck in that rut of calling myself an ethical business owner who serves ethical business owners, what should I do here? Look, if you don't want to remain at that income level where you are at right now and you really want to grow, I don't think you have a good chance of scaling that. There are very few $1 million businesses and more who are explicitly charging ethical business owners. There's a few, like this jacket company, I think from California. They very much pride themselves on sourcing sustainable materials. They even tell you to not buy their jackets and instead reuse old ones. I forgot which one that is. Sure, there's always exceptions. There's always these the do-good companies who are focused on the well-being of the planet and so on, but it's a niche. Honestly, it's just not a good value proposition to people. Don't buy the green. They say that they want to buy green, but then they don't. I worked with a company recently who tried to lead with, that was like a agency who worked for a shoe company, and they tried to advertise their shoe brand because it's sustainably sourced and to get their target audience, young people, to buy that. Although young people always say that they want to buy green, no one bought those bloody shoes. because people don't really care. It's like one of those things. That's why virtue signaling. You always have to show that you like this stuff. You have to say that you like green and sustainability and so on, but then people don't act on it. Okay. Yeah, you can find it hypocritical. You can be lamenting it. That's perfectly fine. It's just this is human nature. And if you go against human nature in business, you will not make a lot of money. Now, if that's fine with you, then go for it. No problem. It's like stay at the level where you're at. You will maybe grow a little bit as you become better and better. But if you want to grow beyond into 6 and even 7 figures, I recommend you do the following, that you actually become really, really good at what you do. And if that is, I mentioned the example of helping people to market themselves on LinkedIn better, right? Classic example. Email marketing, just become really, really, really good at that. If you are the LinkedIn person, just become really good at content in LinkedIn so that you get those tens, hundreds of thousands of followers, huge amounts of engagement on your posts, be really good in copywriting, create great videos. That's the goal. Become really good at that. Make it your mission to become good at a difficult task. Very, very difficult task. And sure, by all means, you can start in a niche if you have whatever a good supply chain process framework, and you won't need to start somewhere. It's good to position yourself as, okay, we do this for artisanal manufacturers of frozen goods. That's fine. That's a great thing. Start there and create the supply chain framework for them. But as you grow, you will branch out, and always keep your competence and how good you are at something in the foreground. That is the thing I would really focus on. And just like that, if you do that, you will become so good at what you do that you can then start picking the clients you actually want to work with. You will have enough money put aside so that you then can really, for example, sell yourself way below your value if you're so mission driven. If you believe in what you do and you think that this would really make the world a better place, if you help the vegan solopreneurs to market themselves better, then go back again to the $500 or $1,000 rate, because you by now have stashed away the million, so you can really afford to build a great solution for them. You don't need to make money off them anymore, and do that. Or democratize your product, sell it for way below its value, and just, or even give it away to those who need it. That's great. I don't knock that at all. I love when people are really dedicated to a good cause. I'm not knocking that. It's just that as you are starting out, focusing on serving so-called ethical businesses, or anything that has to do with green or social impact, anything like that is, and my data shows this, is a surefire way to remain at a low income level. So that's my conclusion. You can get there. You can get to the point of working with ethical businesses if you first take the long way. Become really good at what you do. It's effectively like a variant on what Bill Gates did, right? He's now spending billions and billions and billions of eliminating diseases. And I don't want to get into political arguments here. What do you think of Bill Gates? But he has contributed a huge amount of money into disease prevention and eradicating even a few diseases. He's doing good work. And he did that. Why? Because he had a lot of money that he could spend on it that he made by building a so-called unethical business. I'm not saying Microsoft is unethical, but they would be normally considered a not typical ethical business according to the definition of the people who throw this term around. So he first made money and then gave it away to good causes. And he's had 1 billion times more impact than someone who sells themselves under their value in order to serve a target audience that is identity based, and where they are selling themselves well below what they're worth, because they also have some limiting beliefs about their own worth, probably, and especially about how much the target audience is willing to pay. So I strongly recommend that you rethink your positioning. If that is your positioning, that you focus on becoming really, really good at what you do.